Good morning. Can you hear me? Awesome. It is my first time at MPE, and I have to tell you, this place is buzzing. I'm excited about it. Thank you all for having me. Thank you all to the Phillips in the back who helped put the presentation together and the microphones on. I have 20 minutes to tell you all the things I know about the future of payments and fraud. So I'm going to go quick, so buckle up. I thought I would share with you the top 3 trends that I think are most important. Fraud trends, how AI is changing everything around the world, and then what are we doing about it at Visa, right? So first things first, look at these fraud trends. Now, you'll notice that Europe has the lowest fraud rate in the entire world. Why is that? Because you have very strong adoption of secure technologies. You can see that on the top left. Now, I do want to highlight a couple of things on the slide because I think it's very important. You might be saying, what the heck is happening in France, right? Well, it's a good news story. We worked over the past 18 months to work with France to report fraud correctly. Why? Because reporting it correctly helps build our models, which help us capture more fraud. So you might see that France has a lot of fraud rate. Again, a good news story. If you can see on the right, the bottom right, they've come down 35%. So you've got to increase sometimes, report it correctly so you can decrease your fraud. Now, I want to spend the bulk of the conversation talking about what's on everybody's mind, which is what's happening in AI. So, in 2005, you will note that the 4-party model looks something like this. Very simple, right? Since then, it looks like this, which is fantastic to see because that means everybody's innovating around the edges. That's exactly what we want in payments. But it also means our attack surface has increased. And at the same time, criminals are uniting like never before. And you guys know this all too well. You've got the middlemen that go in and send the phishing email, get people to click, download stuff onto their computer. They look at your access control rights. They say, hey, approve every transaction at the ATM after midnight on a Wednesday. You've got the counterfeit card makers that make the cards. You've got the mules that go out and extract the cash. And then you've got the dark web collaboration space. Now, pre-COVID, all of the fraudsters would stay in their own lane. They all had their own things that they did, but then they started collaborating on the dark web at scale. This is one of my favorite ones. This one is Dark Fox. You will notice it has a little cart on there. It's got a buy button. It's got a shopping cart. You can search for whatever you're looking for. You can rate your local fraudster. They have 3-factor authentication. So you have to get approved by the buyer, the seller, and Dark Fox all at the same time. They only transact in Bitcoin, because if they transacted in cards, we'd obviously shut them down. So Dark Fox is one of those interesting sites that we follow, and after COVID and during COVID, we saw a proliferation of all of these sites come together on the dark web, and there are hundreds of thousands of them. So that was yesterday. Today, these folks have access to all different types of technologies. So, and all the different modalities. It's audio, visual, it's text, it's photos, it's code. And what they have is equal to what we have on the surface web. So on the surface web, we have ChatGPT. They have WormGPT on the dark web. And WormGPT is basically, think of anything nefarious that you could possibly do. They have access to it. So the barriers to entry in the space is very, very low. They also have FraudGPT. Anybody who has seen a really good phishing email, it was likely done by FraudGPT. And this is where they have no broken English, no broken language. It reads just like a really good marketing campaign. So they got FraudGPT to do that. In fact, the Japanese language used to be so hard to recreate, you didn't see any phishing scams in Japan. Now, thanks to FraudGPT, we've started to see it go through the roof in Japan. So then you've got Dark Bart. And you can think of Dark Bart as basically the Tor web browser that they use. I think of it as like the Google browser, but for the dark web. So you can go in and you can search things. So if you think of all the tools that we have on the surface web, they're able to utilize their own on the dark web as well. They're running them like corporations. So you can see all the different types of services these folks are offering, and you can see how they're trying to market themselves. And this is just a screenshot. We have a whole dark web intelligence team that we work with at Visa. And I said, hey, I'm running into this conference. Can you just do a screenshot of what you're seeing? And without any research at all, boom, boom, dark web, this is what they sent me. So then you can start to see, as they're running them like corporations, what all are they telling consumers? Well, this one is a scam that says, hey, you've won tickets to the World Cup. Click here, download your link, and you'll see even like in there, it says, insert malicious link. Like that's how easy they're making it for these fraudsters. And then what does that code look like? That's what you're seeing on the right. They just copy that, pop it into that little tiny link, and voila, you've got a really, really good fraud scam going. Now, the interesting thing about the code that we're seeing, it's not just code that can be picked up by antivirus software, it is polymorphic code. Polymorphic code is basically code that hides itself, and it camouflages itself, and it recreates itself so that it can't be found and can't be discovered and can't be detected at all. So not only are we seeing phishing scams get better, the creation of malware and the development across the board there. Now, let's talk a little bit about biometrics. So on the surface web, we all have access to 1.2 million how to make a deepfake websites. That's on the surface web. So we've done this with some of our executives to show them just how easy this can be done. And you guys probably all read the news about in Hong Kong, the financial associate that was on a Zoom call with his deepfaked CFO, his deepfaked leadership team, telling him to transfer $25 million. Well, he thought it was his CFO, he thought it was the leadership team, so he transferred $25 million into a fraudulent account. Poor guy. I mean, right? Wouldn't you hate for that to be you? We even had an example from our very own CEO, Ryan McInerney, where he was deepfaked on WhatsApp to a country manager. And he was educating everybody within the company, saying, everybody has to be vigilant. It's everybody's job to watch out for deep fakes because they're popping up in lots of places now. Luckily, our country manager didn't fall for it, but that's the good news. So a lot of different biometric bypasses out there, not just deep fakes. We're seeing this in iris scanning and biometric cloning for fingerprints as well. The next rising trend that we're seeing across the fraudsters is voice scanning. And you've probably heard the scam of like, hi mom, hi dad, the bad people have me, pay this ransom, and that's terrifying as a parent if you get that call, right? So if you think about the syndication of voice, and I'll read this one to you because I think it's kind of funny. You get to go on the dark web and you get to pick what type of labels you want. So this one says, somebody put in the description of, I want a young American male with a good attitude who sounds like he's know what he's doing and is an all-round nice guy. Like that's the perfect scammer. And then you can take that person that you're creating and you can map it. It says text to speech, voice conversion, and you can pick any language you want. So I was talking to a cybersecurity insurance company the other day, and they basically said, Natalie, ransomware has always been at the top, biggest concern. The voice text scams that they're seeing is almost paramount to that. So it's growing at a faster clip we're seeing on the voice side. And that's just the syndication. Then when you see the replication, even on the surface web, you've got the applications that can take 3 seconds of your voice, map it against 60,000 hours of voice inflection, data, everything, and it can recreate who you are. I mean, I even think about, how do you know that there's not going to be a pop-up voicemail from Natalie Kelly, a CRO at Visa Europe, telling you what to do with your accounts? Like you always just have to be educating people, not just consumers, everybody within your companies, what to look out for, what not to fall for, so that they're all aware. So that's all the bad things that are happening, right? How are consumers changing? So today, consumers, they have point-to-point relationships, right? So you've got a relationship with your Google Photos, your Amazon, your Roblox, your Instagram, Duolingo, your bank, you pay your taxes. So you have point-to-point relationships with this. So imagine in a world, probably not too far in the distant future, when we all have digital assistants. And the digital assistants can basically overlay and interpret all of the things for you on a daily basis. I'll give you a couple examples. So I just went on a trip to Singapore with my family. It would be amazing if my digital assistant could take my top Google Photos, pop them on Instagram, and write a couple of sentences for me about my trip to Singapore with the family, right? It'd be super easy. And then Instagram could say, hey, Natalie, while you're in Singapore, you might want to consider shopping at these places. Or Natalie, now that you're back in London, here are the places that you might like to eat based on, your experiences in Singapore. So you start to see how it makes life a little bit easier. And then I know my good buddy Neil Caldwell is going to come up on the panel in a few minutes. Let's say he invites me over to dinner at his house. Well, my IoT device, my Google Home, knows what I eat, what's on my shopping list, what I'm allergic to. It basically knows everything about me. It will be able to tell Neil's IoT device, here's what Natalie likes. Like, she's allergic to peanuts, she loves drinking Cosmopolitans, she likes jazz music, and she likes your house to be this degrees in temperature. Then when I go in my Uber Comfort, I don't have to tell them anything. They know I don't want conversation, they know I like jazz music, they know I want my temperature to certain degrees, and you see that it takes you soup to nuts, most literally, from going to having dinner with Neil, getting into an Uber Comfort to go to his house. All of these devices are starting to talk to each other, which will help make our world a lot simpler. Same with my kids. My kids are addicted to their VR headsets, and I always think, I'm trying to learn French terribly. I'm doing a terrible job at it, but through Duolingo. And Duolingo is a great app, don't get me wrong, but it's a standard static app that I choose words and I match sentences and I speak into, right? But if I could put on VR headset and walk down the streets of France, ordering coffee, practicing the language, I would learn it a lot faster. And even into the future, I'm going to be able to walk the streets of France, pop into a store, and be able to say from my avatar, these are my specific measures. What do these clothes look like on me? And if they don't have it in my size, they can custom fit it and then mail it to me in the real world. So all of these types of interactions are going to be coming into play and marrying over each other. Then you think about managing your home. Well, I've got a husband who is an incredible Boston sports fan, and he's going to have his own digital assistant. And it'll be able to say to me, my digital assistant, hey, Natalie, here's what your husband would like for Christmas, Father's Day, what have you. Same for my children. I've got a daughter that's way into water polo, a son that loves Roblox and all kinds of gaming things. He can give me ideas and help me understand them better and what's going on in their world. Same with managing your home. You think of it a push of a button. You can secure everything. You can talk to your house. It can talk back to you. It can tell you if you left the oven on or the stove. All of these things are going to start to come to life through your personal digital assistant. So what are consumers going to expect from merchants, right? And you think about the expectations high on the consumer side. They're going to look at retail as like the perfectly integrated world for them. And it's the funniest word that I uncovered was phygital. Has anybody heard of that before? It's like a mixed mashup between physical and digital. But that's what customers are going to be experiencing and expected to have. They're going to expect everything to be personalized, like just not only when you walk in the store and be able to say, Natalie, you walk down the aisles of the store and here's where you can find everything on your shopping list. I'm terrible in a grocery store. And then they want everything to be, for them. If you're walking through and it says, hey, Natalie, we've got a sale on flowers today, or we've got a sale on, Celtics gear for your husband. Those are the types of things that I will be able to be expecting in this digital type of world. They also want it to be very integrated. So I can look through my app on my phone, and I can see things in the digital world that might not be there in the real world. So you think about the evolving retail walls that we see that are never ending. You can be able to say, hey, this might not be in stock, but it will be able to tell me when it's coming, how it's going to get there, and when I can expect it, either in the digital world or the physical world. Goes to the point around tracking. They want everything to be transparent of when you're going to get it, how you're going to get it, what time it's going to be arriving at your doorstep, who's delivering it to you, all that kind of stuff. So it's all about driving transparency. And then the same with the seamless experience. They expect checkout in this phygital world to be something that is incredible seamless. Push of a button, boom, the transaction is done. So those are the types of things that customers are going to be expecting in the future from retailers. Same with banks. Thought I would share this with you all too, because it's not just in the retail world. When you think about all the things that a financial institution has access to and looking at how money movement happens, they're going to want financial institutions to manage their identity, file their taxes for them, make university recommendations. So it might say, hey, Natalie, your son's going off to college soon, and based on all the economic data, we know he wants to study engineering because you've told us that, but based on all the data, you can get the biggest bang for your buck, the University of Maryland, where it's low cost for him to get into engineering school, and they have the highest rate of engineering salaries paid right after graduation. So you can start to see how all of these large language models will build upon each other to create a more integrated future. Same with job recommendations. They might say, hey, hang up that CRO title and go work in prompt engineering and help that because AI is coming. So all of these things we're going to be experiencing in the future. Universal banking, moving here from the States. It took me 4 months to open up a banking account in London. Same with setting up a business cross-border. These are all the things that we're going to be expecting from our financial institution. Digital passports, retirement recommendations, investment advice. You get the idea. So, sounds like fraudsters are having a heyday. Consumers are going to have high expectations. So what's Visa doing about it, and how do we bring all this together for you? The first thing that I want to remind you of, and I think people think about us as a card company, is Visa is a multi-rail company. We've done a lot in the industry around cards, but you have to think about the role that we're playing in accounts. So card payments, we've had chip and PIN, we've got tokenization, we've got things like click to pay. We've increased the security. We've increased consumer protection with zero liability, so much so that the fraudsters are moving away from cards and they're focusing on the weakest link. That weakest link is consumers. It's me, it's you, it's everybody. It's the people that click the link, it's the people that download the software that gets into your computers. It's the people that fall for the scams, right? And somebody calls you up and say, hey, send me money instantly. Well, on real-time payments, that money is gone, right? It's automatically left. There's nothing you can do to get it back. There's no zero liability. And so what that means is there's decreased security, there's decreased consumer protection, and the attack surface is broadened. So if you think about all the things that Visa has done great in the card space, we're going to plug that into the account space. So we've heard loud and clear from our clients the scams are the biggest problems, and so we're building the solutions to be able to do that. And then on to decentralized payments. We're building capabilities there, and then who knows what the future is going to hold. I know this is a bit of a busy slide, but what I wanted it to replicate was if you've got all the bad actors and bad things that are happening in our ecosystem, along with the good transactions, and it goes through this funnel, right, of the VisaNet funnel and all the different layers of protection that we had from pre-transaction to authentication, authorization, pre-disputes, disputes, so on and so forth. Like, it goes through the funnel of those things. We want that to bring out only good transactions. And it's incumbent upon everybody in this industry, not just Visa, to be able to take advantage of some of these capabilities. So I've highlighted what we have for issuers because I wanted it to be a fair balance of what we also have on the merchant and acquiring side available to you all. I'm obviously not going to go over all this because it will bore you to tears, but hopefully Neil can cover some of those when he's on the panel shortly. I did want to highlight a couple of things. As a company, I don't think we spend enough time talking about our operational resiliency and the capabilities we have. I mean, I'll start at the top left there. We have spent $10 billion over the past 5 years on cyber and technology security. So that's an investment we think is a great return because this middle quadrant on the right, we've saved $41 billion. And that's before it even hits anybody's bottom line or impacts customers. So those two numbers alone are a big impact to us. And then global security, we have the highest rating you can get for cybersecurity rating by the top firms in the entire world. Our transaction attributes, we look at 500 different transaction attributes in milliseconds to route a score back to our issuers to say approve or decline this transaction. Now, that's a lot of attributes when you think about it. We were the originators of AI when we built Visa Advanced Authorization. Operational resiliency, we've had 16 years of uptime. We have 27 different ways to route a transaction. We have data centers around the world, and if those go down, we have a satellite in the sky. We have 10 million miles of privately leased landlines. That goes around the world 400 times. We are incredibly, incredibly resilient. 5 nines of processing quality, which for most industries and companies is unheard of. And on top of that, we have a risk operations center 24/7, 365 days a week. Anything goes bump in the night, you pick up the phone, you call them, or you call us and any relationship managers that you have. So we built resiliency and capability into the network. We're here to share all of that with you guys and the people that want to work for us, because I think as an industry, it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure we're operationally resilient. Last slide. And thank you guys for hanging on with me because I know I've gone quickly. But suffice it to say, like, we're here for you. We want to build the future of commerce together. With AI, you all have bespoke things that are important to you, and we can help you build those to life based on any type of integration AI you want to do with us. And it's all underpinned by our modern capabilities, our enhanced future technology, and supported by the resilience that I shared with you. I hope this was helpful. Thank you again for having me.